Hello and welcome back to the studio. I'm here with another beginner sketchbook prompt tutorial. We are already on number 11 out of 14. Number 11 is window blobs. I know what you're thinking. Window blobs. I really need to take a tutorial to know how to draw window blobs. It's not about that. It's about getting some inspiration and watching how someone with two art degrees, what they do to play. How do they play? How do they make and have fun in the sketchbook? Low stakes, play, but also learn some valuable skills at the same time. So with window blobs, we're sketching several blobs and different scenes into them and adding 3D components like a window ledge. It's pretty simple. It's pretty fun. As I mentioned in a previous video, a lot of our prompts were very observation heavy and took a lot of sort of time and thought, and I wanted a couple of these prompts, especially after putting in the work, I wanted a couple of them to just be fun and silly, and you can still get a chance to use those skills that you learned in the sketchbook in a fun way. So let's dive into it. You can use, I've got some Crayola markers here, and I also have some alcohol markers. I wanted to test out some with a marker just to see what it would look like. And I kind of enjoyed the way the markers turned out in the Seuss City, which was our last tutorial. So I thought I'll just try using some easy supplies, stuff that everybody has on hand. Usually you can get your hand on some Crayolas or some highlighters even or something. With marker, you're gonna have the streaks, but let's do them in different directions so that, I don't know, I think visually it'll be more pleasing. I think maybe you might want to use a lighter marker than this one. This one looks like very dark. I should have done a little test swatch on the side first. But I'm changing the direction of the marks because I think overall the whole page will look better if not all the marks are marks going the same direction. It might be kind of boring. I'm going to do one with this just to see. Make it look like a pear, kind of. This has a bigger chisel tip, so it's a lot easier to cover more ground. I really liked how easy that was. I think I'll do a couple more like that. And anytime you're using alcohol markers, you're going to want to put a little something behind so you're going to bleed through onto this paper, but at least you won't bleed through onto the next sketchbook page. The idea is that we're going to put a scene in each of these. I've kind of got a loose idea for the color scheme I'm going with. I'm kind of picking all blues and greens. You could draw these blobs and then ask your kids to turn them into something. That would be really fun. I want to make one that's geometric. I'm trying to make them as weird as possible because when you start embracing weird and just kind of pushing yourself, try to make shapes you wouldn't normally think of as a window shape, you can unlock some pretty creative solutions to stuff. So we want to create problems in our sketchbook for ourselves. Create problems. I should make that into a shirt. Create problems for yourself. That's part of the joy of art, is that we can create problems on purpose and then we get to work on solving them, which is how we build our creative muscle. You'll want to probably use pencil, and the idea is to not have to, I mean, you're confident now after doing the Seuss City to create your own cities in here, but I think that it would be exceptionally cool to pull up some references of different cities and work with that. It just helps to have a reference sometimes. So here we're playing with the made up plus the real. So I have a reference here of Paris, you know, it's kind of on my mind with the Olympics. And so I could pick any one of these, which feels most Paris-y. None really, but maybe the blue one. And I'm going to lightly, in pencil here before I add any pen, I'm going to kind of block in the Eiffel Tower here. And I did it a bit large, but the goal is just to make it look like we're looking out a window at the Paris skyline. This is roughly the structure of the Eiffel Tower. And then we've got a bunch of buildings here that kind of, but don't quite cover up the bottom. And then we have some tree line streets here. And then we're gonna put in a couple more buildings here until right about here. This is the horizon. So we've got the Paris skyline there. You can add in some fluffy clouds if you want. And then we want to deal with how do we make this look three-dimensional. So for the first one, we're going to keep it super simple and basically just mirror this shape. So with a pen or a marker, I will kind of solidify the outline here of this shape. And then I want to just mirror it, like halo it. And I'm going to make the top closer, smaller, just to kind of give that impression of perspective. Like we don't want to see, the only way we would see the same amount all the way around is if we were directly centered. And I kind of want to make it look like looking down and over at it a bit. So we're seeing less of this side because our view is this way into the window. Now, how do we make that actually look 3D? It would help, especially where there's like little sort of indents, to kind of do these shapes around. You can add them in any way. Just imagine that this is like a window ledge. You can literally put things in here, on here, and you can draw that in there if it helps. You could draw like a stack of books or a little cat lying in here just to show that it's going in. Another way that you're going to show that this is going in is by potentially creating like a wall, and this shows the light that's coming in to the window, and then this would be in shadow and this would be more lit up, and that's just that little element will help the lighting. Over here I was pretending that yes, it has a window sill, but then it has like wood sort of framing, because a lot of the time windows have framing like that. I'm not sure that that's going to work perfectly for this. I'm just experimenting along with you, so I don't quite know what's going to look the best. This one we do want to just be even all the way around because it is literally, we're pretending it's wood built that way. How would they cut this? I do not know. That would be a lot of work. I kind of like this. It looks like a porthole if you go on a cruise or something. All those cruises I go on. Clearly they're not made this wacky, but just giving you some ideas, So do we want this? We want this window ledge to not be the same color as the blob. You can leave it white. You can draw a totally different color in there if you want. That could look pretty neat. I'm gonna leave it white for now. I'm going to go over the Eiffel Tower sketch with pen here just to show you that like we can finish this up to look quite cool. I'm using a Precise V5 extra fine. These are not quite like a gel pen. They're very runny. The tip is really interesting. It has little holes in it. It's very fluid, one of my favorite pens to write with, but it is not waterproof. So if you're going to use this, you cannot put water back over top. You could use any drawing pen. If you've been along for the ride with me, you know that my favorite drawing pen is a Micron PN. That means plastic nib. So it's the kind that isn't going to have the end that gets kind of squashed, because that's my problem with Micron pens. I have a beef with them because they do not work for me. The ends always get squashed, and then I can't write on an angle. I have to like write with the pen straight up and down, and it gets really annoying. And it changes the way my handwriting looks and everything. So I need to use the plastic nib. Before I discovered them, I just thought all Micron pens were dumb. I no longer think this. I'm doing little X's to show the kind of structure, the way it's got all these bars. I've actually been to the top of the Eiffel Tower when I lived in France for a year in my early 20s. I actually have a knitting pattern as well. I published a knitting pattern called Dinner in the Eiffel Tower. It's a shawl that got very popular with thousands of projects being made, and it's inspired by the architecture of the Eiffel Tower. So there you go, a little tidbit about me. So buildings, I don't want to get into much detail with these. I'm going to make them really kind of cartoony, basic. We'll do some windows. I'm okay with things looking a bit cartoony for this exercise. Obviously, look at the window shapes we've made. They're crazy. Yeah, I'm not going to touch the clouds either, so I'm going to leave that as a part of the drawing. I'm going to emphasize the edge of the window here. And now I'm going to start selectively coloring it in. That really adds to it. It's so simple, but the idea is we're making just little imaginary worlds. I used to be fascinated by like Polly Pockets and stuff. I never owned one, but my friends who owned them, man, I was jealous. Those were cool. And it's going to slightly tint. See if I pull it over this not waterproof marker, it might bleed a little and look gross, but it looks like if I just pop it in around, it'll be fine. I forgot to erase first the little pencil lines, but I don't think it's taking away from it. I don't think it's like ruining this at all. I have a very light gray as well. And I'm gonna put that on the bottom of the clouds. Any tiny little detail you can add like this to help the believability is gonna just make it come to life. So in terms of the actual building, I think it could handle a bit of gray here on some of the more solid parts, and that really helps it out. I'm just gonna leave all the buildings, I think, could do a couple little sides, a couple little kind of blocky shapes in there. I'm gonna make the wall a little gray. The issue with making this wall gray is that, like, I don't know that I'm gonna carry it across into the other illustrations. So it might be a bit weird. You might want to make your windows separate and make little frames around each drawing so that, you know, you're creating a different space each time. It's not like the same space with like these windows don't exist all on the same wall. I didn't really think it through that much, but that would be one solution, is draw a whole bunch of little frames and then play within them. Like I said earlier though, part of sketchbooks are to experiment, create some problems for yourself, and you'll end up with more creative solutions. So here I've created a problem. I've got two windows really close together. So what's going to happen is this one's going to have some gray on the window ledge, or who knows. We'll get to that when we get to it. I don't know what it's going to look like if I make this gray, but there's no way to know unless we try it. So it's the same white edge, like let's just imagine it was made with white wood or plastic or something, and it just has less light on it because the window is the source of light. It's going to look gray on this side. Don't know if it's achieving the desired visual effect, but I think it looks pretty cool. Can we agree it looks pretty cool? It almost looks like there's a blue glass there, blue lens or whatever. Moving on to the next one. So one thing you can do with all these weird window shapes is to create different ledges and stuff, or shutters. I didn't give myself a lot of room to make shutters. Maybe this one or this one could have some shutters. Let's see, what would it look like if this had shutters? They would be kind of half circle shaped. This one doesn't, I don't have room over here to open this shutter, but this shutter could be closed. That could look really kind of cool. And then we have to imagine, okay, it's got hinges. This is so weird. Oh yeah, this is the curved side and that is the straight side. This is doing a number on my brain. My brain. And then this would be straight. So this is kind of like if the shutter were open, it would look like this, which isn't correct. It's not at all correct, but I don't really care. I think it looks kind of cool and we get the idea. So I'm gonna add in my little wooden slats to the shutter. And what should be outside this one? Should we do a forest? Adding an edge to your windows is going to help. And we have to decide on another. What I've been doing is going to Pixabay, which is a free photo website. And I'm just kind of scrolling through different landscapes, stopping on ones that I think are pretty cool. What would I want to see out of a window? I just had the idea by looking at these of a window that has some ivy. The ivy will be kind of silhouetted. So we're going to do a bunch of sort of, I'm being very loose here. You can't even see what I'm doing. I'm going to switch to a marker, even though normally I would do pencil, because I want you to be able to see some of the marks I'm making. But I'm going to do some leafy shapes kind of dangling here, and I'm going to go over this in black, but I'm going to leave some green showing through. It's very dark, this one, but that's okay. And hopefully that gives the impression that we're looking for. I'm drawing a fence, and then I'm going to draw a little house. So this is like a pastoral scene. Again, I'm using a reference. I am not just making this up. What's going to help make this one look a little more real is the light and shadow that I'm going to introduce. So we've got some trees here and some more back here, and then the trees are casting long shadows over the fields. So is the house. And we're just going to make some lines here as if this is the field. I want a dark gray. So I'm not really doing color with this one. I'm just doing value. I think that will read well enough. This house is going to be in shadow on this side. The sun is coming from the left, casting a shadow this way. I'm even doing tiny little tick marks here to show that the fence is casting shadow. And I just did kind of the bottom right-hand side of these trees. There's some shadow coming from this side into the field. I imagine there's a tree over here. And there you have it. I think that turned out really nice. If you want, you could introduce a white gel pen or a white acrylic marker and add some highlights. That could be kind of cool. Gel pens I have really bad luck with. I'm trying out a brand new brand. This one is Papermate Ink Joy. And so far I have mixed feelings. I'm even putting a little bit of white on the side of the tree trunk here. It's barely noticeable, and that's because my pen is kind of skippy. It's not really working really well. They haven't figured out white ink, I tell you. It's a very particular way of moving it. I'm kind of scumbling it along, kind of scribbling very, very, very small circles to kind of allow it to come out a little. So that's what they look like up close. The streaks are kind of taking away from this a little bit. I kind of wish it was acrylic or something. But. And then down here we have a little bit of space. We might be able to make a weird window ledge perch thing. I'm not entirely sure I can pull this off, but that's what your sketchbook is all about. I guess I could make a tiny window ledge. For the window ledge, I basically mirrored or haloed the shape of the bottom of the window. And then I decided which side are we going to look at, which side are we going to see the side of. So we don't see this side, but we are going to see this side. There's the corner, and then I've created like a bottom edge. So it's as simple as create the shape, create an edge, and then make sure you add one little side here with your line on the diagonal. We're not really paying attention to perspective. This is all made up. I'm going to color in the edge of this because it'll be less lit than the top. Not sure it's entirely successful, but hey, you learn. One way to make this look more realistic, if we were going to continue that light gray wall, you would add more of a shadow below the window ledge, and that will help tremendously in making it look like it's three-dimensional. It's popping out from the wall. So as I was saying, you need to add a bit of a shadow, and you could do that over here too. This is like meant to be a little bit of a lip before the wall, so you could add a teensy bit of a shadow, and I wouldn't even do it all the way around, just and there you've got your second. Another fun thing you could do with one of your windows is to actually draw your scene, like what you see out your window this moment. That's actually a whole exercise in itself that I love to encourage students to do, is just draw what's outside of your window. It's a great exercise. You can go to every window in the house and get a new view. These are not straight. I guess I could have used a ruler, but I don't mind the wonkiness of these drawings. They're meant to be creative. The line that I'm drawing isn't perfectly following the marker. I'm okay with that. I'm going to let this go off page a little. I cannot control this. I did not plan this out. So I'm just embracing what I'm able to do. Normally I would rotate the sketchbook a little more to get a good angle for my hand, but since I'm recording for you and I want you to have a very particular view, I'm not doing that. But just so you know, I encourage you to move your sketchbook around to get a good view. Notice I did a little edge, an extra edge right there to show that it has some depth. I'm not going to show any right here or here. And I've got it kind of on an angle as if when you open this, it would have to open up a little bit just because of the weird shape. Just bear with me here. I know this doesn't look realistic. That's okay. So I think that I'm going to try to do the view outside of my own window, which has a pine tree. So I'm going to get this pine shape going here. And I think it would have helped me do that in green, but I'm really having fun getting to experiment with these markers. I do not have a lot of experience with them, but the sketchbook is the perfect place to play with something new, a new supply. They were really affordable. They're Artist Loft brand. I can't attest to their quality because I do not use markers like this normally. But so far they have been a whole lot of fun to play with. I got them at Michael's, I think. Putting in some shadow areas, and then I've got a little fence in my yard. So we're looking, this is more maybe a common window perspective, like what you might see instead of these gorgeous views. You might see just a boring fence. I'm actually looking at the fence structure as I talk, and I'm creating a memory because what other time would I draw this boring fence outside of my house? Then there's a road, and then there's a field, and then there's tiny houses and trees in the distance. Interesting. This is a sidewalk. Nope, don't. This is a sidewalk. And we're going to use a little bit of a light gray, color in the road a little. Grass right here. Yeah, this is working. This legit looks like my yard. Grass there, but I'm going to go lighter for the grass back here. Just change it up. Ooh, that's cool. I like that. I don't have a brown. I do have a dark gray. I don't know if it's going to be too dark. No, it's perfect. It's really warm. I could add highlights and stuff, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to grab my green back and do a tiny sliver of yard right here before the sidewalk. Ooh, I like that. I like this one a lot. Now, I guess I should do this shutter the same color as that shutter. And I'm pretty sure if we layer these, they do get darker. So I'm going to kind of add a bit of a shadow around one side to kind of show the indentation of these shutters. And then I'm going to add a couple little lines. This brush is so floppy, it's hard to control. I think that helps add some dimension to the shutter, making it look like it's coming forward a little bit. I'm just going underneath each one of these lines, almost like it's a shadow, and I'm going to go along the side. And then the last thing that you could do is you could add shadow to the wall. And we did it for these, so why not just keep on trucking and do that for all of them. I'm not going to continue and like show you every single window blob, but hopefully seeing all these different shapes gave you ideas and you can pick kind of your favorites. I really need more control with the wall. Those lines are going every which way and look horrible. My interior design people and architecture people are cringing at how I'm using these, I'm sure, but I'm an artist. I'm not a designer. I do weird things. It's fine. And what did I say? We need to add some shadow to make it come to life. I'm going to add a bit extra shadow here. We're going to pretend all these windows are on the same wall with lighting coming from this side. So we're going to have a bit of shadow over here. It's a bit extreme, but that's this side. Maybe a little bit on the bottom is okay. This will be casting its own shadow back here. And one thing I didn't do is kind of show the side of the shutter over here. That would kind of help it look more three-dimensional. I don't have a lot of room for it, but I'm going to add it anyway, pretending this is the edge. There's some more ideas for you here. I still think I'm going to make this weird kidney shape look out onto a pool. The vacation scene. And this weird painter one, I think it should maybe be looking into a painter's studio. Wouldn't that be cool if we were looking in the window at someone at their easel or something? Hopefully that gives you lots of ideas, different ways to make it look three-dimensional, to do shutters, to do a window ledge, to do a weird like indentation, and how to just add simple made-up shadow. Your light source, you have to pick a light source, and in this case the light source is coming from the left, and then you can just have fun with it. You can add very minimal, like we didn't add a lot of color here. We just kind of played with value. Like this is basically all green, but just with some different values in places, and it really helped it pop out. You can add a little bit of white highlight if you want. That could really help things. If I took that one marker, and you could add detail to the window with white as well. So just feel free to let loose and play with this, and be sure to tag me, Doddington Sketch Team, if you try out this exercise. Thank you for joining me in the studio for another sketchbook prompt tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. We only have a couple of these left, and then I'm going to be diving into some new series of little tutorials and educational yet entertaining art videos, I hope. If you have any suggestions for content you want to see on this channel or anything you want to be taught by me, please let me know in the comments. I try to read every single one and will do what I can to make sure that you get to learn whatever you want to learn. and hang out and have fun with me. One other thing, if you don't already follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you can find my accounts. It's the same name, Doddington Creates, and it's linked below in the description. And over there on TikTok, I am hoping to host several sketch-alongs, several sketching sprints where we hang out and we independently sketch for 20 to 30 minutes with 5 to 6 minutes of chatting in between where you can ask questions and whatnot. It won't be instructional. It'll be just to build community and to help you stay accountable in your sketchbook practice. But if lessons are something you're interested in, we can discuss that too. But that's another format that perhaps we can explore, is hosting some lives here on YouTube or on Instagram or on TikTok, where I will be instructing and you can ask questions. So that's another option. But for starters, I want to just see if we can build a community over there that's really supportive, and we just work independently but hang out together doing something we love. Let me know if that's something that interests you. You can find me over there at Doddington Creates. And thanks again for joining me.